DC15, followed by Dwayne Rankin.
Hey, Monty, can I just ask how Payne's ankle is doing today, and was he able to participate in practice?
He was a little bit better today. We didn't do a ton, so it's hard to evaluate, but we think he's getting better. So we hope that he can get back on the floor tomorrow. So we didn't have a practice, a normal practice today. So, but he was able to get out on the floor and shoot a little bit and put the ball down, and he's walking around fine.
Next is Dwayne Rankin with the Arizona Republic, and then Mark McClune.
Coach, we always know you have a much, in-depth breakdown of a game after you've seen it on film. So what did you see from after watching film that, you feel like you guys can do better or improve upon for Game 4?
I just thought they played with a great deal of grit for 48 minutes. And, they changed their rotations, changed the starting lineup, changed the rotations, leaving Cousins out. And so they went small, but they took advantage of the moments better than we did. When we cut it to 6, we turned it over, and they ended up scoring 5 straight points. I think it went to 11 right away. And that was around 5 minutes. They've thrown a bunch of defenses at us as we have them. And the thing that we saw over the course of the game was, their level of intensity stayed the same or increased. We played somewhat inconsistent in our intensity, and Zubac in the first half had 5 offensive rebounds. That's something that we have to do a much better job is rebounding the ball. Our rotations on the backside, giving up threes in the second half, was not at a high level. And so, these are things that we will spend time on today and tomorrow, among other things, so that we can be better in the next game.
Next is Mark McClune with Channel 3, Channel 5, followed by Kellen Olson.
Hey, Monty, when you have a tough night shooting like the team did and like Chris and Devin did, how much is it talked about? How much is it just kind of thrown out as just a bad shooting night? And how much is it a teaching point for you today?
I mean, you always look at the intention. Missing shots is never the intention. If it was messing up an assignment on the backside of your pick and roll defense, that's something you show and you go over. Not getting back in transition, the play that Zubac missed the dunk and man was the only guy to pursue the ball. That's something that when it comes to shots and missing shots, we tend to look at what we can do as a staff to help our guys get better shots. And that's what we spent some time doing today, this morning in our meetings. We know our guys put the work in. We have a let it fly mentality here. We always will have that. And we don't want our guys thinking about shots. We tend to think about how we can get them better shots, and that's our goal.
Next is Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports, followed by Dave McMenamin.
Hey, Monty, to bounce off that question, Devin said last night he thought he liked his quality of looks, but he wanted to watch it back to be sure. So when you watched it back for both Chris and Devin, did you like the shot quality for those two?
I didn't mind the shots that happened in the flow of our offense, the ones that hurt us, and it wasn't just Chris and Book, the ones that we got a bit bogged down and we had to take late clock shots. Those are the ones that limit your ability to have other options. You tend to be out of rhythm because the offensive rebounders are in and out of the paint because they don't know when that shot's going to go up. And then when it does go up, you're so worried about transition defense. So when I looked at the numbers from our team in Phoenix, the data, our shot quality wasn't great last night, but it wasn't terrible. And like I said, that's on me to try to put our guys in a better situation so that they can be more efficient.
Next is Dave McMenamin with ESPN, and then Mark Medina.
Monty, staying on the same line of questioning, I think last night Chris said he wanted to play with more pace. Dario just spoke to us. He also mentioned pace. You said last night that there was a lot of hands on Devin. It is one way to combat getting bogged down by whatever defensive schemes that they want to throw at him is just getting up and down the court quicker, and he's able to play in space.
It is, and that's our hope. I felt like we got enough stops. They didn't score a great number last night. We just didn't. And when you miss that many shots, you're playing in transition, and that can make you a bit tired. Once we get stops, that allows for us to get out and play the way that we want to. And so, to your point, in transition and in our half-court sets, like we have to be more violent in our actions. Playoff basketball is handsy, it's physical, and the one way to combat that is to play with great pace.
Thanks.
Next is Mark Medina with USA Today, followed by Cameron Cox.
Hi, Monty. Good to see you. You knowing Chris as well as you do, what were your expectations of what his first season would be like from a performance, health, and leadership standpoint? And from what you've seen, to what extent has that maybe even exceeded what you thought you would get?
First season?
Yeah.
Okay. I've learned, having been around him for as long as I have, to not put him in a box in anything. And you can sit here and look at his age and look at the miles and say, or try to project what he has left. I wouldn't do that. He's just one of those guys, and we've seen them over the course of the last 10 years. We've seen these guys extend their careers with work ethic, diet, and just sheer will to play at a high level. That's what I've seen from Chris. The impact that he's had on winning, the impact that he's had on our young guys. And I've been around him long enough and talked to him long enough to understand that that's just who he is. From the time I met him in New Orleans, watching his leadership, I think Chris was 26 at the time. To have that kind of leader my first year as a head coach helped me sped up my growth. A lot of people thought I could coach that year when it was really Chris and David West helping me out. So he's a freak of nature in that way, from a leadership standpoint, and his will to play the game at a high level.
Next up is going to be Cameron Cox with 12 News, followed by Rachel Nichols.
Hey, Monty, the guys talked about after the game, not letting this loss really get to them. And they've done that really all year with losses. They've kind of stayed even keeled throughout the season. As a coach, what's that like to see that culture after losses, and have, good teams that you've been around? I mean, that's got to be like the common theme, that they don't let losses affect their gym, right?
Yeah. I mean, your human nature is to allow it to bum you out a little bit. I mean, you go home, food tastes different. Your sleep is a little bit different, but the one thing that we've said, when we come to the gym, we're going to have a pound the rock mentality, relentless mentality, no matter what happened the day before, win or lose. So our gym was typical Suns gym. That doesn't mean we don't have great remorse for the things that we could have done better. It doesn't mean that we don't feel badly about losing a game, especially in the playoffs, but we have to turn the page. And that's the one thing we've tried to do with our young guys, is to teach them how to learn from the win or the loss. At the same time, approach the next thing in a fashion that would allow you to be productive, whether it's film or practice, whatever it is. So with that being said, we know that we have to play much better. And that's a part of that was a part of our day today as well.
Next is Rachel Nichols with ESPN, followed by Dave McMenamin.
Hey, Monty. There was a point last night in the first half where Chris was just like really flexing the hand a lot, and then he came back with tape on it. Do you know what the issue was there, and will it affect him?
He got fouled one time on the right side of the floor in front of their bench. Somebody got him pretty good. So it was a little sore, but I just saw him in our practice. He seems to be okay.
And is there anything you guys can do to, I don't know, can you speed conditioning? I don't even know if that's possible, but if a guy had an 11-day layoff, is there anything, what do you do in the off days now that you've got him back and he can have physical activity to get him back in that game shape?
Yeah, I think, I said it last night. I felt like I played him too much, but that may end up helping him.
Okay.
To have your body go through that soreness, it probably felt like an old school training camp, which most of you guys don't know anything about, where we practice for 2.5, 3 hours every day for almost a month, and soreness was a part of your deal. But when you play,
I covered Pat Riley teams. I know all about that.
You know exactly the what that I went through during that year. But I think it's going to help him, and not having Cam out there probably sped up the process. So having been around Chris, once he has like a game like that under his belt, he tends to bounce back from a conditioning standpoint better than most.
Thank you.
Final 3 questions are going to be Dave McMenamin with ESPN, followed by Greg Moore.
Monty, I didn't catch your first answer here, so you might have already addressed it, but I was just curious if there's any update on Cameron Payne and how he's feeling with that left ankle of his.
Yeah, we didn't do a ton today, but he was on the floor shooting and dribbling and getting a little bit of court time in, but not enough to make an evaluation. But we all walked over from the hotel to the gym today, and I was walking behind him and felt so grateful that he was just walking the way that he was to the gym. So we're hopeful we'll get a good report going forward, and he can be ready to play tomorrow. But we just don't know right now.
Thanks, Monty.
Final 2 questions are Greg Moore with the Arizona Republic and Law Murray.
Coach, good to see you. Greg Moore, Arizona Republic. Having spoken with Dario earlier, got me to thinking about how he's been able to turn it around a bit. He was struggling a little toward the end of the season, didn't play a lot in the Lakers series, and he seems to have found his game. I'm curious what you've seen from him that's allowed him to bring it back that way.
Well, I mean, the confidence is the main thing that we've seen from him. A few weeks ago, I didn't see that. I saw a look on his face that was, not like Dario and not the guy that we needed to have an impact on the floor. Lately, we've seen a great deal of confidence, and a lot of it is the work he's put in with Coach Randall and then his teammates rallying around him to tell him, Dario, we need you. That kind of thing. And what I've told him is go out there and be a warrior. That's who you are. From the time I've coached him since we were in Philly together, when he's effective, it's when he's out there playing confident and making plays for other people and himself. And it's stuff that he does that you don't even coach, that you expect from him. So the confidence piece is something that I've seen change over the past few weeks.
Final question is Law Murray with The Athletic.
Hey, Monty, you mentioned earlier about the need to be more consistent with your physicality and intensity, but you also mentioned you cut the Clippers lead down in the fourth quarter, and second quarter you had a turnaround fueled by the defense. The Clippers only had like one basket in the first 6 minutes of the second quarter. So how satisfied have you been with the team's defense and execution over not just last night, but the previous game as well?
It's solid, but it's not to the level that we need it to be. It certainly wasn't last night. We did it in stretches, and you alluded to that in the second quarter. And then when we made a run in the fourth, you could see our defense take over a little bit. Where we struggled was the transition defensive piece coming out of halftime. That was not at a high level, and the offensive rebounding in the first quarter. So if you broke the game down, there were segments of not so good, and then there were segments of that's us. And we have to have, as you said, consistent levels of our kind of defense, just relentless, keeping the ball in front, forcing tough shots, and then 5 guys in the paint to rebound the ball. When we're doing that, we give ourselves a chance to play in transition and create a lot of space for our scorers.
Thank you for the time, Coach.
Thank you.